Welcome back to the Play Along of Miles per Hour 2. Now, I made sure that I contained the most difficult area of the game in this part, specifically, so you can joke at my inability to properly platform. Welcome to Metropolis, the most difficult zone in the game, or at least a contender for second place. It's also the longest, by far, and I mean by pretty damn far. Hence the double speed, and I'm probably still going to run out of things to talk about. How shameful. Sad. Think I'd be... you think I'd be used to this by now, but no. Anyway, every type of badnik in the stage is somewhat adept at screwing you over somehow, and they're placed in the most insidious spots. You've got the shell crackers, which are the armored crabs in the hallways that punch you for getting too close. I still haven't figured out where their weak spot is. I think it's between their eyes, but, I've attacked there dozens of times and still gotten hurt. If I had insta-shield, that wouldn't be an issue, but, that wasn't conceived until Sonic 3. Then you have the slicers, the praying mantis robots that detach their forearms and launch them at you like defective homing boomerangs, and then they just stand there and do nothing else. The good news is that the arms don't come back. The bad news is that even so, they're fairly accurate. And then there are the Asterons, the starfish embedded in the level. When you come near, they start to give chase, and then they explode, shooting off bits in 5 directions. Let's just hope you're not platforming or on one of those giant spinning gears when that happens, because if you are, you might be a teensy bit screwed. Just a teensy bit. Actually, a good counter method to do this is that if you do get hit while you're on the gears and you can't get back on for some reason, is to just backtrack a little bit and then go back to where you were. The gear will have reset itself, and then you can move on without the Asteron being there to ruin your day. I actually show that here. Or did I go another direction? Anyway. All of this, combined with its easy-to-remember name and labyrinth-like design, make this a level that will be burned into your memory for life. And we haven't even gotten to the nasty little surprise at the end. Simply put, it's a breeding ground for frustration and rage quit, but on its defense, you should have a number of continues by now. Oil Ocean's a little annoying, but it's nothing worth losing continues over. Each continue is worth 3 lives, but I think it resets your score too, I'm not exactly sure. So to take up the rest of the time, hopefully, I'm going to talk about a recent project that was being looked at as having the most potential since Sonic 1 Megamix. Chances are you already know what I'm talking about, but since when has that stopped me from talking about it anyway? I'm of course talking about Sonic 2 HD. Now, seeing as I'm not a member of the Sonic Retro forums, and the thought never crossed my mind to even register there, as I'm certain I'd be more than a headache for those guys, seeing as that's the case, I'm sure I'll get some of the details wrong, but if that's the case, just say something and I'll post the link so you can read it for yourself. This remake's roots date pretty far back to 2007, where an art piece of Sonic facing the final boss surfaced on the internet. Considering how the Sonic fanbase loves their classic Sonic, this art exploded on every major Sonic forum. Sonic Retro, the Sonic Stadium, Sonic Classic, maybe even a couple of non-Sonic forums. And then everyone got to thinking, especially on Retro, what would a remastered Sonic 2 look like? And everyone was like, wah! Not wah, wah. There's a difference. I think a remastered Sonic 2 should look like this! Or, I think Sonic 2 should implement this feature. You know, like it was in Sonic whatever. Wall jumps, homing attacks, super peel outs, oh my. So the interest was there, but as with every video game, much less a remaster, there is a lot to do. You have the concept art, the game engine implementation, programming based on that game engine, music composition, sound production, model creation, model rendering, model animations, quality checking, game testing, I could go on. And this is just for the simple games. Most people, they don't completely realize this. All they see is a game trailer and they say, oh, that game looks really cool, I think I'll try it out when it comes out in 5 or 6 months. They easily forget that 1 or 2 years, 3 years even, for the AAA titles precede the commercial phase. It's a really demanding field of work. Especially when you have strict time constraints like Sonic 06 did, but I'm getting off track. The same degree of demand plagued the Sonic 2 HD development team. And 1, they weren't getting paid for it, so 2, it didn't help alleviate life problems they had had during that time period. And thus, it didn't come as a priority, no matter how great it might have been in concept in the fans' eyes. So you had people that were interested in the project but couldn't work on it, and then you had the people that were losing interest because those people couldn't work on it. And even then, an inconsistent dev team was only a fraction of the problems the group had. They decided that using the original game engine would leave them with too few resources for an HD remake. Taxman's Retro Sonic engine was suggested, but impressive as it was, it didn't quite fit the bill of replicated classic Sonic physics. However, as if there were a hero signal in the sky, another member by the name of Lost introduced his engine to the group, and it was apparently very impressive and did the trick. A few months down the path, the team cobbled together a tech demo of the game to keep the fans interested. Not only did it do that, it was a big hit across gaming blogs and the like. In the next couple of years, it continued garnering attention from new members in the community, who submitted pieces of art for various parts of the game, like the badniks, the rings, updated tiles for Emerald Hill, etc. And then the project went under wraps for several months, under what I assume would be quality assurance for the engine and models. This had a major negative effect on the community, and before they knew it, the Sonic 2 HD team was whittled down to 7 members. And before I continue, we got a boss time! The Doctor floats in with 8 weird-looking pod things orbiting his Egomatic. He tries floating very ominously into you on both sides, and then goes all extending arm on you. But after that, there's a considerable window in which you can hit him from underneath, and then one of the pods pops off and morphs into a fake Doctor. You'll have to take it out to continue the fight. Rinse and repeat for 7 loops. This fight is very much harder with Knuckles, given the lack of walls and his inability to jump over the pods. What you have to do is build up momentum and slide underneath as he approaches. I never did that when I played Knuckles in Sonic 2, so all of my runs ended here. I was like, why don't I play Knuckles in Sonic 2 more often? Oh yeah, that. Once all the pods are destroyed, he'll start shooting lasers on either side, but they're easy enough to avoid. This is one of the few cases in which a Genesis boss takes more than 8 hits to defeat. Oh yes, I did it. Wahoo! Come on, celebrate with me. Yes. Da 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 da. And with the Doctor's munitions factory thoroughly wrecked, he takes to the sky, hence the name Sky Chase. Who's that? Why are you in my plane? Blue? Blue! You're ruining the color scheme. Red? Orange? Come on, be yellow at least. God. Well, actually, for those that don't know, and I'm gonna have a hard time believing you, even if you were telling the truth, unless you really didn't care, but I'm gonna say it anyway, because I've got time to fill. And it doesn't really matter what I say so long as I get my point across. The tornado originally belonged to Sonic before Tails showed any interest in it. Though, how could you not know that? I mean, the plane has his name on it, which implies that he does fly this plane. I find this quite humorous because this is precisely the same condition in which fans cried foul over the Sonic Drift, Sonic Riders, and the Sonic and All-Stars Racing series. There was even a skit or two in the Sonic Shorts series of animations over at Sonic Paradox. Can I say Sonic in any more than one line of thought? Sonic, 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 Sonic. But here's the thing. It's a video game. And if it wants to remain a video game, it should remain unbound by the restrictions and logics of reality. This is a series about a blue hedgehog beating on a scientist with an IQ of 300. In other words, quit getting mad over video games. Yeah, I think that sums it up to a T. So, Sky Chase is essentially a skywalk. You can go in any direction you want, but your only platform is the wings of the tornado. And the Turtlebots, I guess. But since Sonic is such a good pilot, that platform remains under your feet at all times. Unless you spin dash. Then you'll be sad. That said, this level isn't that hard despite me getting hit by every other enemy. You can consider it a breather, but I see it as another transition level, like S3 and K's Hidden Palace. There's nothing coming in from the left, so you can just hang out here and enjoy the enemy telegraphing its attacks. There's also no boss, so it'll be over before you know it. Actually, I think we're at the last few seconds right now. Try and get more than 15 rings before— nope, I didn't think so. Oh, God, it's so terrible. I mean, I can only see half the screen right now, but I can tell it's pretty terrible. And here's the other most difficult zone in the game. Wing Fortress. Lasers! And Sonic gets shot down, even though I called him a good pilot. Way to betray my trust! I still have trouble with this zone, and you'll see why. First off, the launch pad. I used to avoid that all the time. Sometimes I still do. It doesn't look momentum-based, but it is. What I mean is, you'll get launched further the faster you run into it. That's not what people think to do, and so it's sometimes mistaken as a death trap when it drops you into a pit all of a sudden. Fortunately, this was fixed in Flying Battery. Yet another reason to love Flying Battery. Okay, second, the layout. It's so convoluted. The normal path has you going up and down and all around the fortress, to the front, to the back, to the side, underneath. But some ambitious person just might stick their finger in the propeller blades, abuse the invincibility frames, and skip over half the level. I wish I did that in hindsight. This level's too long otherwise. Not to mention the multiple deaths in one spot. You'll see that soon enough. Okay, so back to Sonic 2 HD. The year 2010 would only see 3 new team members to add to the 7. 2 artists and a musician. But by far the most disappointing thing that happened that year was the announcement of Sonic 2 HD switching to a, quote, closed community project. It may have been a good way to clear any confusion regarding submissions, but that also meant that you had to be a member of Sonic Retro to contribute anything in the first place. And like I said, I'm not sure how that would fare. The end of that year, a countdown showed up on the project homepage, and this is around the time I heard about it. However, once the timer expired, instead of a beta, all that appeared was a gameplay trailer, some screenshots, animations, and 2 promotional wallpapers. Additionally disappointing was the statement that the contributions from the community were scrapped in favor of privately created assets. As you can imagine, collectively that took the community out of Community Project. But wait, the problems didn't stop there. Over a year later, the alpha version of Sonic 2 HD was released to the masses, and everyone is overjoyed to finally try out the completed Emerald Hill. At first. Then everything fell over on itself in a pile of worst-case scenario. The reason for this over a year is because the programmer for the engine, Lost, was being overly possessive of his engine, making unnecessary changes here and there, ignoring requests from the team, and overall being an incompetent team member. A very good example of the one bad apple adage. As if that weren't bad enough, some members of Sonic Retro tried to reverse engineer the program, only to find out that it contained DRM, or Digital Rights Management. To put that in a fan game. The majority of people found that to be incredibly unacceptable, and Lost was promptly removed from the project. Without an engine once more, and without the will to pretty much start over, Sonic 2 HD was cancelled not a month after the alpha release. It's a real shame that the project was cancelled. I was gonna do a J-play of it and everything instead of the original Sonic 2. Although I imagine it's heart-wrenching to see a vast majority of your work. The music, the art, the sprite work over a course of 4 or 5 years go to waste. So many Sonic fans, myself included, were looking forward to the finished project. And if I may be straightforward with you guys, the Sonic community really doesn't need any more shame right now. At least the wallpapers look nice, but you can't really put them up without being reminded of the prior disappointment. But hey! It's not all doom and gloom over at Retro. Why, just the other day I found a hack over there called Sonic 2 Heroes, which is essentially Sonic Heroes in Sonic 2, without the repetition of stories, or the hassle of switching to Knuckles in Sonic 2 and back. It even has 3-player netplay if I recall correctly. Definitely worth checking out. Okay, so we're finally coming up on this boss area, except that last portion was sort of visually confusing and I couldn't really make heads or tails of it. Ha ha ha! Made a joke. But just inside this room, the Doctor awaits and he's got a thing ready for us. Holy touchable lasers, Batman, again. We're trapped. Down drop 3 spiked platforms that move in a fixed pattern. The only thing you can hit is the dispenser, but wouldn't you know it, it's out of reach without the help of the platforms. And they crisscross past one another. To make matters worse, the dispenser is only vulnerable when it's about to fire a laser at the ground. This fight is all about reading the pattern. If you can't find that, you're not gonna win, and the Doctor's just gonna laugh at you. Either that, or it looks like he has to use the bathroom. I don't know, one or the other. Can we hit a dispenser, please? No? Okay. Okay, the dispenser's gonna hit us instead. Yeah, I like that. Let's just speed this up because it's kind of tedious. But I can understand why. This is a late game boss. And it would make sense for the enemy to be only, you know, vulnerable for a short while or inaccessible by means of spiked platforms. I don't know what else to say. Dude, you lose my rings. It's very easy to lose your rings in this fight. It's also very easy to lose the pattern, which leads to you losing your rings, still. Okay, there we go. Boss down! Let's chase down the doctor, and that'll do it for this part of the play-along of 2 miles per hour. Be sure to come back for the final part where we'll put an end to this West Side story. Oh, look at you, remembering where extra lives are. In all honesty, I forgot that was ever there. That's how long ago I played this game. Catch you guys next time! Up in the sky with the rocket booster. Catch that ship! I don't know how flying up, despite the forward propulsion of the rocket ship. I don't know. I lost it. Whatever. See you guys next video. Let's go. Just go up into space. Forget about me. Just do it. Do it!